What's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to another episode of Axel's Analysis. As always, I'm the man too cheap to make up his own name, so that's still an Axel Mulligan. My cold from last week is gone. Glad to get that out of the way. I'm just coughing up some green shit at the moment, but I'll spare you the details. I've given you enough already. NXT, brilliant go-home show, I thought. There was a lot of it crammed into the hour, but nothing was rushed, nothing was overdone. Everything served its purpose well. Just a great go-home show, I thought, really. Commentary team was Phillips, Renee, and Saxton. Did a good job again. Jojo, what's her name? Jojo Offerman. I'm going to start calling her Jojo Offerman. Ring announcing was fucking shit again. I've seen a few people moaning about it on Twitter, so they'll agree with me. We'll leave it at that. First match of the night was Charlotte versus Alexa Bliss. Just a short match, really, just to sort of promote Charlotte for TakeOver next week. She won with a cutter, which they're not calling the bow down to the Queen anymore, which I thought was quite strange. But so why give it a name and then revert back to calling it a cutter? Anyway, post-match Bayley came out. She gets on the mic and she says how she's beaten Sasha Banks twice in recent times to earn the championship match, and Charlotte needs to start taking her more seriously. Excuse me. She says at TakeOver next week she's seriously taking Charlotte's title. Bayley offered a handshake to Charlotte, and Charlotte shoved her in the face. Bayley come back off the rope, and Charlotte went to sort of hit her with a clothesline or a right hand or whatever. But Bayley sort of avoided it, and she hit her with the belly to Bayley. Charlotte rolled out of the ring, and it looked good at the end of it because Bayley was stood in the ring with the championship, and it's a kind of moment that could have closed out the show, and it wouldn't have mattered that it wasn't somebody who's not like a Sami Zayn or a Tyson Kidd or a Tyler Breeze or whatever. It was just little Bayley. She's there holding the championship, and you could have ended the show there had you had an hour before it because it just looked brilliant. I think, though, if she does win the title next week, it's going to be one of those ones where there's often a debate of, does the person make the title, does the title make the person? I think the title could make the person for Bayley. I really did. She's sort of moving on with her character slowly but surely in recent times, but now she's just needs that little bit extra to help get her over this whole like being a kid kind of thing. But no, I'd like to see her win the title next week. I really would. I think she's got a lot of talent there, and there's also talk about moving Charlotte to the main roster, so it would kind of make sense. We'll see where they go with it. We'll see what they do. Up next, we've got interviews throughout the night. It was announced that all 4 men from the main event will be in action. And before each of their matches, we've got a little interview. So Tyler Breeze was up first. He was basically asked why anyone should believe that he'll be the next champion. He points out that Sami Zayn didn't have a good night the last time at TakeOver, obviously because he lost to Tyler Breeze. And he says that Neville and Kidd don't look as good as he does. But then he sort of queries the question and says that every time he's in the ring, he gets the job done. So he's sort of saying, well, why can't I win the title? Because I win more often than I don't. And he's got a good point. It was really well delivered, I thought, and it reminded me a bit of like a Dolph Ziggler kind of promo. The way he delivered it, where he starts the fast talking, and he got his point across like Dolph does. Now, fair play. Tyler Breeze doesn't really excel on interviews, but I thought this was pretty good. It got to the point. Well, it was literally a 30-40 second promo, but I thought it was done really well. Devin Taylor had an interview up next with KalistiCara, as I call them. She asked them how they feel about their opportunity tonight. Obviously, it's the the match to become the number 1 contender for the Ascension's Tag Team Championship. So she asked them how they feel about their opportunity tonight. And Hunakara goes off in Spanish, but thankfully we've got Kalisto to translate for us. He says it's a fantastic opportunity, and despite only teaming for a short period of time, they're confident of winning. So Devin then asks if they win, they face the Ascension, and asks how they feel about that. Again, KalistiCara goes off talking in Spanish, and Kalisto translates again, and he tells us that even though the Ascension are a strong team, they're also a strong team, and are determined to become the new tag team champions. Devin, in her sexy little Spanish accent, she goes, "Muchas gracias," and Kalisto replies with the same. And I thought the next bit was brilliant because KalistiCara says, "Thank you very much. We look forward to the challenge." And that was just brilliant because KalistiCara's never spoken in, or Mr. Cara, KalistiCara, whichever Cara, they've never spoken in English. So it was good to just sort of break that little mould there. I thought it was brilliant. I had a good laugh at it. Next we had Tyler Breeze versus Ty Dillinger. Decent little match. I expected Breeze to get the majority of the offense in the match, but he didn't really. You know, Dillinger had his fair share as well. He did. It was good to see, but it was a bit of a John Cena kind of win, really. And the crowd didn't really know who to cheer for because Dillinger's sort of on and off as a babyface and heel, whichever way they decide to put him for that particular week. You know, obviously in his tag team, Jason Jordan. Breeze is obviously a heel. So it was a bit, didn't quite work really. But you know, as I say, Ty had some decent offense in the match, which I was quite pleased to see because you know he's a decent wrestler. When he was there before, he was good. He's never going to set the world alight. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but he's not great or anything. So, but Breeze won. Basically, Dillinger came off the ropes. Breeze missed with a clothesline, and as Dillinger came back again off the ropes, Breeze caught him with a beauty shot. 1, 2, 3, and Breeze looked fucking fuming with Dillinger. And the only thing I can think of is he tried doing that sort of sitting on the opponent's chest and hooking the leg up kind of pin. And I think Dillinger kind of botched it where, excuse me, when Breeze pulled the leg up, Dillinger sort of shuffled around. So it sort of delayed the pin. That's the only thing I can think. Unless he caught him with a stiff shot in the match, which he was holding his chest, but I think that was just selling a chop or a kick or whatever it was. But that's the only thing I could think that he'd have been pissed off of him about. He sort of gave him like an evil look as if to say, "You fucking asshole," kind of thing. But no, I'm not sure. I think that must be what it was with this pin. Tyson Kidd's interview is up next. Kidd says there's one man in the match who learned how to become the greatest high flyer in the world while he was in the UK. He said one man has most heart. He's talking about the people in the match. He says one man in the match learned how to become the greatest high flyer in the world out in the UK. One man has the most heart and is a great innovator. Something he developed in Japan. One man is seen as arrogant, self-absorbed, and cocky, but he can get away with it because he looks like $1 million basically. And one man is cold, callous, and ruthless, and learned how to become the most dangerous man in the world in the dungeon. And then he said. And then there's Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, and Tyler Breeze. So he's obviously putting himself over, and I thought he did a brilliant job with it. You know, he delivered well, he just got straight to the point. These little promos were all quite good, really. But Tyson Kidd's having a bit of like a renaissance, I suppose, where like he was the forgotten man for a while. He had his injury, he was the forgotten man. He came back, he did 2 or 3 episodes on the main roster of SmackDown and Raw, and now he's flourishing in NXT. He really is. You know, there's nobody I can think of that I talk to who watches NXT on a regular basis who's got a bad thing at the moment to say about Tyson Kidd. The guy's doing such a great job. You know, his matches are just brilliant. His promo work's improved 100%. His delivery, his timing in the matches, his timing in the promos, you just cannot fault the guy at the moment. He's doing such a great job. So, you know, hats off to Tyson Kidd. And as CM Punk called him a couple of years ago, he is the workhorse. And, you know, again, as Punk said, how an imaginary child like little Jimmy got a spot ahead of Tyson Kidd on the main roster, I'll never know. Because this guy's got a lot of ability, obviously, in the ring. He's improved. He's shown he can improve on the mic. What more can you ask for? You know, it's one of those things where I'm actually hoping that he doesn't get called back up to the main roster because he's flourishing down in NXT, and if he goes back up there again, he's just going to flounder. And what's the point in having him up there if he's just not going to do anything? You know, he might make it like a US champion or Intercontinental champion or a tag team champion, but down in NXT, he could be the main champion, whereas he's not going to be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So keep him down there for as long as you want. I'm enjoying it. I don't watch the main roster at the moment. The more guys like this that stay down in NXT, like Adam Rose is another one. Yeah, the more guys like this that stay down in NXT, the better, I think, because NXT at the moment, and I was chatting to Kinney from the Sunday Segue earlier in the week, both agreed the main roster is like it's not doing as good as it should be at the moment, but NXT is the place to be. You know, if you want to watch a really good wrestling show, you watch NXT. If you're talking WWE, again, something that I can't think of anybody that I talk to. I don't think that anybody's got a bad view on it at the moment. So there you go. This next bit of the show is my favourite part. It's probably my favourite promo since the Bo Dallas "He Touched My Bum" promo. This was fucking brilliant. It's Enzo Amore and Colin Cassady. They're outside like a hairdresser in the salon. Enzo talks about knowing one of the girls in the salon. He says, you know, they've got people on the inside. Girl called Carmella. And Zoe says that he said that she's got the Victoria's Secret cream, I think he called it. And like Cassady's there, he's got a phone he's using as a camera, sort of filming the whole promo. And he's sort of like anything that Enzo's saying in sort of Enzo Amore talk, and anybody who's heard an Enzo Amore promo will know exactly what I mean. Cass is translating it for us. So when he says, when Enzo says that this girl Carmella's got the Victoria's Secret cream, he basically says hair removal cream. So they go into the shop, and as they're going in, Cass asks Enzo, he says, "Is it the same cream that your mum uses on her back?" To which Enzo replied, "Yeah, well, your mum's got a moustache like Ron Burgundy." And I thought it was brilliant. You know, the chemistry these two guys have got is fantastic. They find Carmella. Enzo does the meet and greet, you know, the kisses on the cheeks and the hugs and everything. Carmella starts to sort of walk around the room. She bumps into Cass, and Cass just puts the camera on her tits. And nice. That's all I got to say, Cass. Nice. And she says, "Hello, you know, I'm up here." Cass pulls the camera up. Enzo asks for the creme, as he called it, and she's like, "What?" And they sort of say, you know, "We want the hair removal cream." So she goes off to get this cream, and they're looking into this mirror, sort of flexing their muscles. And she walks back in a couple of seconds later with this big bucket of cream with an Italian flag around it. So yeah, Carmella retrieves the cream, and a guy walks in, and he says, "Oh, I'm here for a wax." And then he calls Enzo and Cass Neanderthals. He says something that these two Neanderthals know nothing about. So Enzo sort of looks to himself, and he thinks for a minute, and he sort of jumps at him, and he goes, "Oh, you're doing," as he does. And the guy just shit himself and ran out the door. It's brilliant. The guy who walked in, he gave his dog Fifi. It was like a poodle, or I don't know, some sort of feminine dog, to Carmella to look after. And Enzo and Cass start arguing about, you know, Cass says, you know, we should use some of this cream on your chest to see if it works. And Enzo said, no, we should use it on your head. And they sort of get into an argument, and a bit like they start having a tussle with the bucket. And the bucket ends up spilling all over the dog. And they both look like, oh shit, what the fuck have we just done? And Enzo's pulling handfuls of hair off the dog. So the cream works. And if they can get more of this cream for next week, Sly, you're fucked, mate. Basically. It was such an awesome promo, though. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I've probably done it zero justice whatsoever in sort of telling you how it went. It was so funny. The chemistry, as I said, the chemistry these two guys have got on camera is just phenomenal. You know, they're so funny together. There was a thing going around on Dailymotion a couple of months ago rather, where they were showing the rehearsed promos that they do down in NXT, and these two just had everybody in stitches. You know, the way that they deliver, the way that they sort of stand there bickering and arguing with one another, and it's not fake. You know, you got like a Brie Bella who can't act worth a shit. And then you got these two guys who are just fucking brilliant. You know, they bounce off of each other well. The chemistry has just been there from the start. And you know, you just can't fault these two guys on the mic, on the promos. I'd like to see more of them together in the ring as a tag team, like longer matches, but that'll come with time, hopefully. So, really looking forward to the hair versus hair match last week, because again, Sylvester LeFort is something that we have not really seen too much of in the ring. You know, he's just been there to get his ass kicked. So hopefully they get like a nice little 6 or 7 minute match, get to show what they can do, because we don't really know what they can do. We know that they can both talk on the mic, and that's it. So no, it's something. It's the one part of the show that I'm really looking forward to. End of. It's just going to be a fantastic little segment, I think, a nice little filler. Next up, we got Tyson Kidd versus Adam Rose. And Renee Young actually made me laugh. I thought this was brilliant. Byron Saxton, obviously, like when the Rosebuds come out, Byron Saxton's always out there dancing, singing, or whatever. And he says, "How come nobody dances with me when the Rosebuds come out?" And Renee Young replied, "Because you dance like Carlton Banks." And I thought it was brilliant. Just the way she just sort of boom like that came out of it, I thought was fantastic. And I can actually see Byron Saxton dancing like Carlton Banks to Tom Jones's "It's Not Unusual," just a bit like with the head shuffling and the finger clicking. Yeah, not a pretty sight. The crowd, obviously, you know, as you expect, firmly in the corner of Adam Rose. Relatively short match though, which Tyson won with the sharpshooter. And I was surprised to see that they had Adam Rose tap out. I thought maybe if Tyson used the blockbuster, that would have been a more suitable finish. Excuse me, for an Adam Rose loss. But Tyson won the sharpshooter. I'd like to see him use the dungeon a lot more. You know, I think he's used it once since his return from injury, and that was at TakeOver 4 months ago, whenever it was. But no, I'd like to see him using it more often. I think that's a really good finishing move, really good submission move. Up next, we had a Sami Zayn. It was his turn for an interview. He says the advantage of being a challenger next week is that he'd have to pin the champion to win the championship, and he'll pin anyone if the chance to win is there. But he says that pinning Neville will be the cherry on the top. Beating the champion is what he wants to do, despite the fact that they're friends. So again, short, swift, to the point, 30-40 second promo. That's all you need. Gets to the point, delivers well. What more do you need? We've got the Vaudevillains next with an interview with Veronica Lane. Veronica says that they have a chance to become the tag team champions. Adrian says it's not a chance, it's a fact that they'll prove that they're a cut above all the other tag teams in NXT and the WWE. Adrian says he's a man of artistic caliber and sophistication, as well as being a physical specimen. He then puts Gotch over as being the strongest strongman in the WWE, and says that he can push mountains instead of walk up them and all that kind of crap. Sami Zayn's match next, he's against Marcus Louis. Another short match, which was actually largely dominated by Marcus, which was a bit of a surprise, really. I would have thought that Sami would have had a bit more offense, but he didn't. It was a bit strange. But you know, Marcus actually looked quite impressive for it. Was like a 3 or 4 minute match, but Marcus looked quite impressive, to be fair. Sami won with he sort of hit the reverse STO into the Koji clutch, and Marcus tapped out. It's kind of again what you'd expect, you know, Sami Zayn to pick up the win. But post match, after Sami left the ring, left the arena, Cass and Zoe came out. They took out the Legionnaires from behind, and Cass had Sylvester in a full Nelson, and Enzo's there with his bucket of cream, and he's sort of teasing him to sort of throw it on him or wipe it on him or whatever. But Sly manages to run away. So it was a nice little sort of taster for next week, really. Again, as I said, I'm really looking forward to it. The crowd really into Enzo. They always have been, because of his charisma and because of the way he insults people, and you know, the things that he comes out with. You know, the crowd just loves it. And how can you not love it? Do you know what I mean? The guy just, he oozes charisma. And then we go from charisma to severe lack of charisma on the mic, with all due respect. Adrian Neville. He says that obviously he's got a disadvantage next week. This is his interview. He says he's got the obvious disadvantage next week that he doesn't have to be pinned to lose to the NXT Championship. He says it's a risk that he wanted to take. He likes to take risks. And then Neville says how he's beaten them all individually and now he needs to beat them all together. Or now he'll beat them all together, rather. And he's looking forward to the challenge. And his match is up next against CJ Parker. And I still love CJ Parker's entrance music. You know, I don't think that's something that's ever going to go away. His sign this week, it said fossil fuels written on it, but the fuels was crossed out and underneath it had fools. So obviously people use fossil fuels or fools is what he's saying. I'm sure everybody would have worked that out. Neville won, as you'd expect, with the Red Arrow, another short match. But it's probably sort of 60-40 in favour if you're talking percentages. 60-40 in favour of Adrian Neville. You know, everybody. It was just like a way to give everybody some momentum for next week. They've all picked up wins. You know, it's good to see. Blah blah blah. I don't need to explain anymore. Straight into the main event then. The Vaudevillains versus KalistiCara, and it was a solid match actually. It was the match of the night in all fairness. And it was nice to see it main event the show really, because obviously this tournament's been going on now for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks or whatever it's been. Perhaps not that long maybe, but it's been going on for a little while. And the highlight of the match came towards the end really. Kalisto hit the Salida del Sol on Gotch. He tagged in Hunakara and Hunakara went up top as Kalisto. He hit a suicide somersault dive through the rope onto Aiden English, and I thought it was fucking brilliant. I can't remember ever seeing anything like that before. Maybe I have, I just don't remember it, but I thought that was brilliant. Just that little somersault dive through the ropes. Fantastic. And the senton that Sin Cara hit, or Hunakara as I like to call it, to win the match, that was really impressive as well, because Simon Gotch was halfway across the ring. And I mean, you're fucking talking Jeff Hardy kind of shit here, you know. I've never seen Hunakara dive that far to hit a senton before, but no, fair play to him. He hit it 1, 2, 3, and we've got the number 1 contenders for next week's takeover. And it's all come about really well this tournament. You know, the Ascension came out at the end. It's sort of like they had the stare down. They held the titles out to close out the show, and that's that little moment, knowing that you've got a championship defense next week, something that we've not had a lot of for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Just knowing that we got a defense next week just sort of brings up the prestige of the title a little bit. And what you need now is a fantastic sort of 15-minute match, I think. There's no point in doing what they did at the last takeover when they had Kalisto and El Local. You know, they got demolished in about 5 minutes. So you've got to have a good 10-15-minute match, nice and even, and then maybe have a surprise win, or maybe sort of like the Ascension if they're going to win. You know, just have them win by the skin of their teeth kind of thing. You can't have another dominant win, because then everybody will be sitting there bitching like I do every week about the Ascension. But no, it was good to see that match main event the show, and it was good to see the Ascension come out afterwards, have the stare down, and it just, as I said, just sort of raised the prestige of the title a little bit for me. Overall rating, I've given it a 7, and I was trying to think of every reason to not go any higher. I couldn't go any higher because we've had shows much better than that I've probably only given a 7.5. But I've given it a 7. I thought it was a really good show. The only match that wasn't promoted on the show for TakeOver was Mojo Rawley versus Bullshit Dempsey. But that match sort of took care of itself last week, really. So, you know, I'm expecting a good little fight out of those two. I'm hoping we see a good fight anyway, but I just hope we don't get chicken shit. So the takeover card for next week, we've got, as I say, Mojo Rawley versus Bull Dempsey. I'll go through my predictions in a minute as well. We've got hair versus hair match, Enzo versus Sylvester LeFort. NXT Tag Team Championship match, The Ascension versus KalistiCara. The NXT Women's title match, Charlotte versus Bayley. And the NXT Championship match, Fatal 4-Way between Neville, Kidd, Zayn and Breeze. And what I'm actually hoping for with that match is that we actually get like an elimination stipulation where, like, if Neville is to lose the title, to have him eliminated second. So maybe like say Sami Zayn eliminated first, and then Adrian Neville, and then you got a tussle between Breeze and Kidd. I think that will work really well. But WWE doesn't like to work like that with fatal 4-way matches, unlike other great companies. Ring of Honor, excuse me. But yeah, we'll see where they go with it. Also, we're gonna have the debut of Kenta. That was announced on the show as well, and I know there's a lot of people looking forward to that. How can you not? The guy's got this aura about him that anybody who's seen him, I've not seen a lot of him, I've seen a little bit, so I can't comment too much, but he's got this reputation behind him, he's got this aura about him, and everybody's really excited to see the guy debut next week. So I think it's only going to be like an in-ring segment. I don't think it's going to be a match. Apparently Ric Flair is going to be there for the segment as well, so something I'm looking forward to. My predictions for TakeOver: Mojo Rawley versus Bull Dempsey. I've got Bull Dempsey to win. The hair versus hair match: Enzo versus Sly. I've gone with Enzo. But I was thinking as I was doing that prediction, I thought, wonder what would happen if Cass screwed over Enzo, because I think Cass could work quite well as a heel, and Enzo's loved by everybody in NXT, and they just need something to sort of keep the fan interested in the ring. So maybe Cass to screw over Enzo. I can't see it happening, but I think it would be a nice little twist if it did happen. I can just picture Enzo being bold as well. So tag team title match. I've gone with the Ascension, but I wouldn't be surprised if KalistiCara won. But with talk of Kalisto going up to the main event, up to the main roster rather, it's not likely that he would win, but you never know. They did that with Big E when he won the NXT Championship. Women's title match, again, because there's talk of her going to the main roster, I've gone with Bayley to win. And the NXT Championship match, I've gone with Sami Zayn, but I was really struggling to choose between him and Neville. I can't see Breeze winning, and I can't see Kidd winning, but definitely one of Sami or Adrian to win, and I've gone with Sami. So something to look forward to for next week, on the WWE Network, 2-hour show for only $9.99 a month. There's my Triple H plug for you. News this week, I've only got 2 little bits of news. Veronica Lane was let go on Tuesday, not really too sure why, presumably something to do with budget cuts or whatever the fuck they're doing these days. There was no reason for it, it was just, like on the reports I've read, she's just been let go as of Tuesday. Solomon Crow, still yet to debut. Recently injured a leg at a house show. Apparently he's been teaming with Kalisto at house shows. Don't really see the logic in that, but hey ho. But he's confirmed that he doesn't need surgery. Get the guy on the fucking roster, for Christ's sake. Get him on TV. I'd actually like to see like a stable between him, Steen, Willie Mack, all these guys coming through from the independent circuit, Kenta, Devin. I'd love to see a team like that just sort of invade NXT, similar to what the Shield did on the main roster. Obviously, we don't want it too similar to the Shield, but just something to, because Steen works brilliantly as a heel, and he could be the mouthpiece of the group. I've not really seen too much of Devin, so I can't comment on Devin. Solomon Crow or Sami Callihan, again, works well as a heel. We'll see what they do. I'd like to see that. I think there's probably other people that would like to see something like that as well. But yeah, knowing what WWE are like, we'll see Kevin Steen in about a year from now finally making his debut. Like it seems to have happened like that with Solomon Crow. This week's birthdays, September the 1st, so Monday just passed, would have been the 53rd birthday of Bam Bam Bigelow. Tracy Smothers turned 52. Not sure if he worked for the WWE, but I know he worked for ECW. Sim Snooker, aka Juice, turned 43. Obviously the big brother of Tamina. And Solomon Crow, funny enough, 27. I've mentioned him just now. September the 4th, again, not sure if he worked for the WWE at all, but Jerry Jarrett turned 72, and Xavier Woods 28. September the 6th, so today, Wendy Richter 53, Loki 35, aka Caval from season 2 of NXT. Yeah, he turned 35. Jillian Hall 34, and tomorrow Colin Delaney, he turns 28. We've also got a couple of birthday shout-outs, like for friends of mine. Yesterday, my friend Dan turned 26. My friend Kirsty turns 20 today, I think. And my friend Caitlin, she turns 22 tomorrow. So happy birthday to all you guys. Hope you all have a great day, or have had great days. Grappling greats this week, and I've managed to fill out an A4 page for one Thesz. Everybody's heard of Thesz, you know. One of the greatest of all time, one of the greatest of the greats. So yeah, Thesz, born on April 24th, 1916 in Banat, Michigan. Excuse me. But he was always built from St. Louis. That was because he moved to St. Louis at a young age. And his father gave him a personal education in Greco-Roman wrestling as a youngster. He debuted in 1932 at the age of 16, and he later met Ed the Strangler Lewis, who helped further Thesz's training and taught him the art of hooking, you know, sort of applying submission holds to basically hurt the shit out of people. He won the National Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Championship age 21. He's the youngest ever World Heavyweight Champion from Everett Marshall, but lost it 6 weeks later to Steve the Crusher Casey. In 1948, Thesz was the champion of St. Louis territory. This is just after the National Wrestling Alliance was formed. He was the champion of St. Louis territory, and he was scheduled to face Orville Brown, who was the Midwest heavyweight champion, I believe he was. I didn't write that down, but I think I read that he was the Midwest heavyweight champion. And they were due to have a unification match to name the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I believe Orville Brown was also the NWA World Heavyweight Champion at the time. I know he was the first. But the match never took place. Brown was involved in a serious automobile accident, and he had to retire from wrestling. Thesz was basically given the title because he was the #1 contender, and he held that title from 1949 until 1956, and he lost it to Billy Whisper Watson. Thesz then took some time off to recover from a couple of nagging injuries, as they're known as now, and 7 months later he won the title back. He semi-retired, not too sure when, I couldn't find that, but he came out of semi-retirement in 1965 to defeat Buddy Rogers to win his 6th and final World Heavyweight Championship. So that was his 4th NWA World Heavyweight Championship at the age of 46, and he held the title for 3 years before losing it to Gene Kiniski in St. Louis. And anybody who's seen the World Heavyweight Championship, History of the World Heavyweight Championship DVD that the WWE put out a few years back, there's a really good little story on there about it, where Kiniski talks about winning the title, obviously being a heel at the time, Kiniski, because Thesz was sort of the ultimate babyface, I suppose, really. And I don't think he was too keen on winning the title in St. Louis, because he would have been he was sort of worried that he'd get lynched, basically. But no, he won the title in St. Louis, obviously the hometown of Thesz. He wrestled part-time until his final match in 1990. That was despite retiring in 1979, but he wrestled occasionally afterwards until December 26, 1990. And he's the only male to have wrestled in 7 different decades. So he wrestled from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. And he passed away on April 28, 2002 after complications following a triple heart bypass. The Hall of Fames that he's been inducted into, excuse me, the Hall of Fames that he's been inducted into include George Tragos / Lou Thesz Hall of Fame, obviously, that was in 1999. The Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in 2002. The NWA Hall of Fame in 2005. St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2007. The WCW, obviously the World Championship Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1993. The Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 1996. And then he was also inducted into the Stampede Wrestling Hall of Fame as well. So yeah, that's the next sort of step along the line for Lou for the grappling greats. It's all sort of starting to tie up, as you see. You know, I've gone from Tom Jenkins to George Hackenschmidt, Frank Gotch, Ed the Strangler Lewis, the Goldust Trio, and now Lou Thesz. Not sure what I'm going to do next week, because this week I was sort of tempted to go back further and cover Martin Farmer Burns. Which I might do that next week, just because of the legacy that the guy's got, the things that he accomplished, not just in the ring but as a trainer as well. So, excuse me. Yeah, it's a nice little interesting story on Martin Farmer Burns. So I think I'll cover that one next week, and then I'll go back to sort of post Lou Thesz, like the next guy on from him. Anyway, that's the end of the show. As always, make sure you look out for me on Twitter at Axel Mulligan. Check out the page for Axel's Analysis at Axel's Analysis. Don't promote it very much because I don't use it very much, but what I'm starting to do is use it for these grappling great moments, trying to find like matches from the guys. Unfortunately, I've not been able to find any from the previous ones, but I know there's probably Lou Thesz matches around online. If not, I'll get myself a DVD of Lou Thesz and rub it all in your faces that I can see Lou Thesz matches if you can. Anyway, also look out for the Facebook page, Axel's Analysis. That's another place where I'll always post all of the shows on Podomatic and YouTube. I don't use Mixcloud anymore because it's fucking shit. And now we're on to the shout-outs. You got Tim Vicious, as always, at Tim Vicious, at Tim_Vicious. Make sure you check out Vicious Rants on YouTube, where he covers Raws and pay-per-views. Sunday Segway podcast at Sunday Segway on Twitter. Make sure you look out for the Sunday Segway Facebook page as well. Just leave a comment on all of their, review the shows. They always put little statuses up, just so guys and girls can leave their reviews on the shows. Check them out on YouTube, Podomatic, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and I think that's about it for them. James's Wrestling Ramble. Check out James Powers at James Powers 33 on Twitter. You can find James's show on Podomatic, YouTube, and Mixcloud. And you can also find James's Wrestling Ramble at James's Wrestling Ramble, and you can also find James's Wrestling Ramble on Facebook. At PW Smart Talk Pro Wrestling Smart Talk on Facebook. At Wrestling Rambles and WrestlingRambles.com. Make sure you check them out. And last but not least, as always, Tony Walker at Tony_Walker. Check out the Wrestling Matters podcast at WM Podcast on Twitter, and make sure you check out the podcast itself. You can find it on YouTube, iTunes, and Podomatic. Also, as well, as always, if you listen to the Segway or the Wrestling Matters podcast on iTunes, make sure you just sort of give them a rating just so they can get up the charts. Thanks as always for listening, guys. Always a pleasure, and I'll see you again next week.